right, it is week 3 is done, Lizette. Good job. You've been doing okay. You've been doing okay. Okay, so what has been talked about this week? I have the book in front of me. A lot of this book has been talking about, or a lot of this chapter has been talking about dealing with criticism. And again, I think I always feel like these chapters have been almost precursors for the week that I'm going to have. I always read a chapter right before the week begins, and I swear to God, something extremely on theme ends up happening. And so, criticism, how do I feel about it? My first thought of criticism is that I don't mind it, and that I've never really been someone to take criticism too much to heart, because I put it in the same boat that I put compliments. I don't let either define me for a very long time. I'll appreciate constructive criticism and I'll appreciate compliments, but I think that if you take either to the head too much, that you allow the things that people say about you to deter you from your path. And I think that compliments and criticisms have the ability to do that. Now, that's easier said than done, and that's kind of what a higher version of Lizette would think about. But let's think about how I'm feeling today, because reflecting on the past few videos that I've made, I don't know if I've been super vulnerable. I've definitely been honest, but I find it difficult to put myself in a place of true vulnerability at times. And I think that's the whole reason why I'm in this creative rut in the first place. So taking a look at criticism and how I feel about it has been pretty on theme for me as of late. Criticism, I often find that the older that I get, I don't care. Like, I really don't give a fuck about, I start to give less and less of a fuck the older that I get. And I reflect on old experiences that I've had, and I always think, oh, I wish I could have done this better. I wish I could have said this or said that back, but it's mindless and it's pointless. But last week was fine until Friday, where I had a little bit of a crash out because of work, which is something I really don't like crashing out over, because the job that I'm currently in right now, I work in human resources as a coordinator. I'm there kind of part-time while I do school, and it's a steady paycheck for me, and I'm very grateful for that. That's for sure. And I always contextualize the things that I complain about in this job versus the types of jobs I've had before. I have literally had jobs in retail, in food service, in hospitality, and none of them are easier than this job. This job is probably the easiest job I've had in comparison. So on Friday, I had a whole plan. Fridays are my days. Fridays are the days that I clean my apartment and I listen to my podcasts. I start at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm usually done cleaning around 10:30 or 11, depending. And then I work a little bit on my laptop, and then I eat my lunch, I go to the gym, I finish out my emails from work, I work on a little bit of homework. I'm really productive on Fridays. I'm telling you, they're my favorite days. And those are the days that all of my favorite podcasts come out. So while I'm cleaning, I listen to my podcast, and it's become a bit of a ritual for me to clean the house. It does wonders for my mental health, because I don't have to clean the house that weekend. Like, I don't want to spend the weekend cleaning the house. The weekend is for generally relaxing and keeping it open and finishing up homework. So I had a plan last Friday to do all of that, and it didn't fucking happen, and it pissed me off. And here's what happened. So Friday, I end up cleaning the house between 9 and 5 o'clock, literally a 9 to 5, because I kept having to stop and delay the cleaning that I was doing and the organization I was doing because I had to work, which is, girl, yeah, you're surprised you have to clock in at your job. Yes, I am, because I had a plan. So I kept having to stop because I was being pulled into different types of meetings on a Friday last minute. And then on Friday, around 4:30 p.m., we get a request to onboard someone. And I'm like, okay, it's a full-time hire. This is a bit of a last-minute request. I'm happy to do it, but just know that your new hire is not going to get anything on time, really. So that's essentially one of my main roles, or my main tasks of my job, is that I onboard new hires and I send out communication to them. I set up their accounts. I do an orientation thing. It's been pretty simple, and I've been doing this for 3 years now. And when I sent out a communication to a candidate or to the new hire that we are going to bring on board, I get an email from the top boss from that office, from a brand that I'm not super familiar with. Long story short, we have a bunch of new agencies joining the fold because of an acquisition, and we're still trying to get our bearings together, but the work continues to come in. So I send them our standard onboarding communication, and I get an email back from this person, the boss. And they did not send a very kind email. It was maybe a few sentences basically saying that, hi, I just received an email and it didn't have X, Y, and Z as requested, which is my bad, 100%. And then this high up person then says that my email was off-brand and off-putting, and that moving forward, if there's no one else from that team that could send onboarding emails, then that the emails that I send have to be vetted. It wasn't a very nice email. Not only that, but it was an email that CC'd the whole village, practically. My team was on that email, several other teams, and it felt embarrassing, and it felt like this person was trying to get something without actually giving me specific feedback, and also being very unprofessional about it. Talk about off-putting, girl. That email you sent was off-putting. And what's crazy is that she didn't put my email in the @ section. She just put the HR inbox as the 2 line. So I don't think she realized that I can see that email. I'm in the inbox, girl. Anyways, stupid. 4:30 on a Friday. It bothered the hell out of me. And I was like, damn, we're talking about criticism in this chapter. So I wanted to talk about criticism and how I felt about that stupid email. Again, the higher part of me knows that it's just an email job. I'm over it now. I was seething on Friday. Absolutely seething. And I was actually more angry at the fact that I was mad about a stupid email. But it was criticism, so let's use it. Let's talk about it. Okay. Dealing with criticism. Step number 1, receive the criticism all the way through and get it over with. I sure did. Jot down notes to yourself on what concepts or phrases bother you. So the first concept that bothered me from that email was the use of the word off-putting. What was off-putting? I had no complaints from anyone else over the last few years that I've been sending the same types of template communications. No one has complained about it. In fact, it was a collaboration between me and other HR people to onboard that email. And we've been using that email for a very long time. No one's complained about it. In fact, people have really found it useful because we didn't have an email template to begin with. Anyway, so the use of off-putting it bothered me because what about the email was off-putting? Be exact, be precise. If you're getting paid over 6 figures, I think you should be precise about something that you're not happy with instead of using the word off-putting. So that pissed me off. Again, these people get paid how much and they don't fucking know how to communicate. Okay, number 2. The other phrase that bothered me was the fact that this person was like, well, if no one else can send these emails, then we're going to have to vet emails that go out to new onboarding people. The fuck they won't. You are not my boss, and no one's going to vet anything. What's going to happen is that you are going to send me a brand kit with exactly what you want, which is fine. I'm not attached to email communications being applied to all different types of teams. That's fine. If you have an onboarding kit that you want specifically for your people, I am happy to do that. But what you're not going to do is make me CC you or have my emails go through a vetting process. You are not my boss. Don't piss me off. And that really pissed me off. So those were the concepts and phrases that pissed me off. Jot down notes on what concepts or phrases seem useful. I think what's useful is the fact that they mentioned that it was off-brand, that the email that I sent, which is, I think that's useful, because the first thought in my mind was, okay, no worries. Hey, sorry about that. Can you send me a brand kit? You've never seen an email from me. You don't know who I am. I think you could probably put two and two together that the Inquisition has put a lot of people in a really unsure place. Why don't you help me out a little bit? If you've never seen me before and I've never seen you before, you can probably believe that I don't have the materials that you want. So give them to me so I can do my job. That's not a problem. It sounds so defensive, but that's okay. Okay. Do something very nurturing for yourself. Read an old good review or recall a compliment. Yeah. I mean, yeah, people really love the onboarding communication that I normally send. People like the work that I do. That's not hard to recall that. Remember that even if you have made a truly rotten piece of art or communication in this case, it may be a necessary stepping stone to your next work. Art matures spasmodically and requires ugly duckling growth stages. For sure. That's 100%. Look at the criticism again. Does it remind you of any criticism from your past, particularly shaming childhood criticism? Acknowledge to yourself that the current criticism is a triggering belief over a long-standing wound. Yes. I think the thing that really upset me was the fact that this person, again, CC'd the whole damn village. There are steps in communicating. If that's just kind of how it is in corporate environments, especially if you're in the agency world, I think it's fucking stupid. And if I owned a company or if I had a large team, I would make sure that everybody getting paid would have this understanding, all levels of people, not just, entry level to mid-level people. You're going to have executives with good communication skills, because I found that the higher you get paid, the worse you are as a communicator. Now make that make sense, but okay. Yes, the thing that, like I said, pissed me off was because she had to put everybody in there, and you did not have to do that. And that does bring me back to, people trying to embarrass me in front of other people. I don't think if you're trying to give constructive criticism, unless it's in a specific environment like a masterclass, and even then, you can give constructive criticism without being fucking mean. Use your words. Show me the criticism that you're giving me makes me understand that you know the process. Because if you're just saying things like off-putting and off-brand, to me that tells me you're not in the weeds and that you don't actually know how things work, because you're in your high tower and you're too good. Your role, your vanity title is too good to communicate. I've seen people in really high positions give great feedback. So I don't know why the rest of you have excuses. I don't know why people are held to different standards for basic communication skills, professionalism, if you will. My Capricorn moon is coming out. Anyways, okay. Write a letter to the critic, not to be mailed, most probably. Defend your work and acknowledge what was helpful, if anything, in the criticism pre-offered or proffered. Okay, I guess I'll do that. Get back on the horse. Make an immediate commitment to do something creative. Cool. And then step number 9, do it. Creativity is the only cure for criticism. So that was the main thing that happened on the big theme of criticism in recovering a sense of power. So something I wanted to talk about was my true desires to be great. I talked to a friend about this last night, and it was off of the Timothée Chalamet, I think, accepting a SAG award for his role as Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown, which is the movie that he was in. I haven't seen it yet. I'd be down to see it. I just haven't had the time. But he essentially made a speech about the fact that he wanted to be great. He was really applying sports mentality in his pursuit for greatness. And I don't know why, but I feel like I've spent the last 6 or 7 years trying to kid myself or kid others into not being someone who really wants it all, who wants to be the best at what I do, that craves my true mission, which I know is to make art on a big scale, to inspire, to lead. I mean, that I've always had that within me. I've always had this feeling of wanting to lead others. Not to bring it back to astrology or anything like that, but I have 4 placements in Aries. I'm an Aries stellium, so I'm an Aries Mercury, I'm an Aries Mars, Aries Saturn, and then I have an Aries Sun. The Sun doesn't count in a stellium, but you know what I'm saying. I'm like the final Aries, if you can tell. I'm also born on the first day of Aries as well. So, you know, I've always been the first to do things. I'm a doer. I'm an action-oriented person. I am competitive, friendly competitive. You know, I'm not someone who takes it, you know, to heart, but I want to be the best. Is that awful to admit? That I want to be great, that I know in my body that I have the capacity to work really smart and work hard and help other people. Is that a sin? I don't think so. So through different lessons in my life, I think some of the big 4 or 5 big events that have happened in my life have been lessons for leadership, but just disguised in different ways. And I think up until this point, I've accepted that all of those 4 major things that have happened that have kind of created this personality that I have now, they were all tests of my own leadership skills. How can I live a life that I want to live and be an example for others? And I think prior to this age now, I always thought that it was happening to me and that I had no choice in the matter and that I didn't literally initiate all of these things that happened. But I'm starting to take ownership of that now, of all of those painful things that did occur were quite literally of my own doing and my own choice. They were good choices, kind of. They ultimately proved to be helpful. But I no longer view it from a point of view of like, oh, this happened to me, feel bad for me. Oh, this is boo-hoo. No, it's an admittance of ownership. I am the reason why it happened. So I should take responsibility for that, which is what a leader does, by the way. So for example, if you know me closely, and Lizette, you know, you tell everyone you're close to, your lore, and your lore does go crazy. People would never know the types of things that I've gone through. But to be honest, we don't really know what anyone truly goes through. So be careful. So my childhood was a good one for sure. I had a roof over my head. I had a family that provided. We were quite frankly, did not have a lot of money. We, you know, had like food stamps and state assistance and stuff for a good amount of years when I was young, but we never lived beyond our means. And our mom was very, very adamant about making sure that we were set up for the future. So I didn't experience a lot of the things in childhood that a lot of people do, but that's okay because I had a loving family and a great community and a great culture that I come from. So, you know, one of the biggest things that happened in my life was, you know, I'm born and raised in the Catholic Church. I talk to people, you know, I was baptized in the same church that I sang in for like 8 years. I was part of that community for a very long time. And I left when I was around 15 or 16 years old because of an issue that I had with the leadership in that church. I left because they were saying some really homophobic things, and I'm 16 at the time, so I'm starting to form some sort of identity and belief system, and I did not jive with any homophobia, transphobia, anything like that. I was like, oh, I can't do that. So I walked out. I did. No one kicked me out. I left myself, and it was a whole thing. So leaving the Catholic Church, I did that. Oh, I did that. Number 2, dropping out of college. I didn't get kicked out of college. I did that. I made the decision to leave college because financially my parents could not support it, and we didn't want to take on loans. So I made the decision to drop out of art school. It put a lot of shame. I was so ashamed of that for so many years. Good thing I'm back in school pursuing my degree again, so that's great. But I didn't go back to school for 6 years until, basically last year. So I dropped out of school because we couldn't afford it, and I ended up working so I can support paying family bills. Because I thought it was my duty as the eldest child. I'm such a stereotype. This false sense of martyrdom. Someone had to pay the bills, and I was old enough to pay bills, so I left school and sacrificed that in order to do what I needed to do. And the narrative around that has changed as well, because I'm back in school, so that's great. So that was the second big thing that happened to me. There's many stuff in between too, but these are like pivotal moments. The third thing is I had endured abuse. I'm not going to go into detail with that, but I had endured abuse for 4 years and left that person. Very proud that I did, but it took me a long time to do it. I left that person. So that's the fourth thing. And then the fifth thing was up until recent was I left a very unhealthy friendship with a multiple people, a group of people. There was one person who was specifically I cut things off with, but it got to a point where it was like, oh no, you don't even like me, and I've been very disrespectful towards me, and you didn't handle the situation in the way that I thought you would, so I'm leaving. And I didn't ghost them. I literally sent a letter to these people and handed it to them in person, told them that it was over. So again, what do all of these 4 or 5 things have in common is I made that decision. None of this stuff happened to me. That doesn't mean I need to blame myself, but that's the main lesson of it is, Lizette, look at me right now. If you are watching this in the future, these are lessons in leadership. No one can take your power away from you. You decide, and you must own it. And that is what leadership is all about. You were born to be a leader. You were born to be an artist. You were born to help others. And so stop taking the back seat. Stop letting these people think that they can just walk all over you because you're fucking crazy and you are someone who can absolutely put your foot down. Do not let anyone ever tell you otherwise.